Okay, okay, all right. Sorry, guys.
All
So,
right, so I shared a draft document with you all. So I'm not going to share my screen because that just gets really awkward. Does everybody have access to that document?
yes, I have a printed copy.
Anybody not? Okay. Um, so let me see here. Get there. So up at the top, there's the three main bullet points that we had decided that those are the things that we really wanted to cover in our report. So I divided this document up into those three sections to look at what candidates have to do, what committees have to do, what the state has to do, et cetera, et cetera. So the first section is, you probably haven't seen this. I wanted, because I just did it, I know you haven't seen it. But I wanted to make sure that we had in there the responsibilities for campaign finance, the compliance by the candidates or candidates committees, et cetera. And just have a little overview of what candidates need to do to comply with the law. I think this is one of the things that the public really doesn't know. They think that money goes into a candidate's bank account or slush fund or wherever, and then candidates just spend that money and somebody's watching, but they're not quite sure who it is that's watching. And so there's all this money kind of floating around in the dark, and they really just don't know where that money is going to or coming from. So this little section just sort of highlights, and this is very, very, very high level because I didn't want to get down into the weeds because, as you all know, it gets very, very weedy. So, you've got these reports that the State Board of Elections sends out, like a reporting requirement to candidates. They got to send the reports back. They're either quarterly or semi-annually. They're different schedules for different offices. And then they can use this kind of campaign finance software. And I thought that was important because I want the public to know that it's not just like typing up or sending your bank account. You're actually filing a specific report from the state to the state from your campaign.
Yeah, Mary Jo, can I interrupt for 1 second?
Yeah, and sorry, I'm getting allergies and stuff, so I'll
Yeah.
stuff.
All right, well, sneeze or blow your nose.
Yeah.
No. The only thing, and I've got a 2:30 Carter Center call I'm supposed to get on. The only thing I see this needing is what you were just articulating about why we're putting this in a report is because the public needs
Okay.
this information, et cetera, et cetera. And that was my only takeaway from going through it, was that we just kind of needed that explanation.
Yeah, we just kind of need the narrative in there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
And then there's what you have to include in in your report. And then just a little bit about the audits. Audits are something that the public knows almost absolutely nothing about. And I think it's super important for the public to know that audits happen, and they're done in different levels and to different degrees. So I just thought this was really important to put out there for the public. Right. And eventually I'll get this into some kind of graphic, but I didn't get it done for this meeting. The second section are the sources of campaign finance funding, the limits and the regulations. I kind of boiled everything down from Lindsay Wakely's PowerPoints and from some of the information that's at the bottom of this report, and just made this one graphic. It's not very pretty, but I'm not an artist either. So there we go. But I thought it was just, for the public, the simpler, the better. Okay, here's what's not allowed. This is what candidates can do. And this is how much is allowed, et cetera. And we don't want to make it too detailed because this stuff changes all the time. So as soon as you put something down on paper, as soon as you make something like this, it's going to change. So we want to make sure that it's kind of broad, but with a little bit of the specifics in there. So I'd love to get feedback from you all on that graphic. Like, thumbs up, thumbs down. Mary Jo, go hire a graphic designer. Tell me what you think.
You're the professor. Call on these people for.
Yeah. All right. Dimney, you're new, so you're basically our public representative. What do you think?
I mean, I think it looks good. I mean, definitely format wise, I feel like it's pretty easy to understand, and I agree, the simpler the better, because people
Okay.
don't read too much. But
Mary Jo, I sort of stumbled when I hit lobbyist twice. Maybe on the first one, except, put a parenthetical, except see below or something like that.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, the whole part about lobbyist agent, lobbyist principal, I was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah,
only in government would we create 3 different things for lobbyists, right? That, I mean, I get that it's important, but the public is going to be like, I have no idea what that is.
yeah, it's not hard to understand. So I wouldn't recommend adding complications.
Yeah. Jennifer?
I have a silly style point.
Sure.
It's hard to read red against dark blue.
Yes.
So I would either make it like have a white border around the red or make it a different color.
Okay. Sounds good.
Maybe, yeah, I don't know what else would go. Or maybe make the blue a little bit lighter. It's like, whoa.
Brad?
Sorry about that. I was muted. Yeah, I think, and part of this is, I think my big question mark when we're trying to figure out what we have currently represented and then a narrative, I want to make sure that what we have is legible when embedded in a document. So, before we get too far down that road, I just want to make sure that we found something that is scalable. Doesn't have to necessarily have to take up the full size, but that's something that we can work on as we get further along, and it has to be incorporated. But I think this is the foundation of what we're looking for. So this is a great first step.
Susan, any thoughts?
Sorry, I was muted. No, and I printed mine in black and white, so it's a little bit hard. I'm having a little bit of trouble reading it.
Okay,
So
well, that's good. That's good to know,
color.
though. Yeah. Okay.
But other than that, no comments.
Okay. Anybody else, David?
Yeah, are you talking about the chart with the arrows, Mary Jo?
Yes. Yeah.
So the one thing that caught from reading the narrative quickly is are they SSFs with corporations and labor groups? That's not represented in that chart, I don't think, and I wonder if it should be.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of left some stuff out just because, trying to simplify. It's this balancing between trying to simplify it for the public, but keep all the relevant information in there, I mean, if a member of the public read something about SSFs or they're like, what? Just, they might stop reading entirely. Yeah.
I guess it shows in the top 2 that none of these are allowed, but in the narrative that, well, there is this other thing. And I just raising the question. I get that you don't want it to be complicated.
Yeah.
I would, if we're looking for a public education, I would add that there is a lot of scrutiny. And I don't know if it was just me, but when I ran for mayor, I mean, I got my report back many times. If I left out a phone number, if I put something in the wrong category, they would send it back and say, you got to correct this. I'd correct it. They'd send it back and they found something else. I mean, I had, it was really hard. I don't know, Bob, if you had that experience, and maybe it varies county to county, but the people in the election office look really closely to make sure these things are done correctly. So I don't know how you put that in there, but
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that Dimney and Patrick Brady and I are working on in the context of that third issue is the volume, though, that the staff is having to deal with, and the
Mhm.
challenges, and I asked, I can't remember, it might have been Lindsay, but can you give us an aggregate of the amount of money flowing through the campaign system? Like, I mean, is it $1 billion and various things coming through? And the answer was, we have no clue. Our software is 20 years behind. And so, educating the public on all of these very complicated aspects of campaign finance is important. But again, this kind of goes back to the narrative. If this is interesting as a third party reading it, but from the standpoint of, improving election laws or improving the elections, what are the, so the narrative, I think, is really important on all of this.
Okay, great. Anybody else on that section? All right, so the third section, well, actually, I'm gonna go back up to the first section if y'all don't mind. Anything you think, I mean, obviously I don't have a graphic here, but anything you think it should be added or subtracted or is confusing? Brad, you're unmuted. You get chosen first.
Let me see. So, and I guess I'm trying to figure out what is exactly, do we have a length in mind that we're trying to get to with a certain, I mean, are we trying to condense certain aspects of this to one page, or is it considered kind of a flowing document?
I was guessing like a page for each topic.
Okay.
So if we have to put a graphic in there, I would take some of the wording out and put it in a
Right.
graphic, put it that
Right.
way. So yeah, it might be too long, too wordy.
Yeah, I'm just trying to envision, trying for it to come together a little bit with what we have currently depicted and included in this, and how we would be able to condense that down. That's a big challenge.
That's the challenge, I know.
Right.
Believe me,
I'm
I
not
know.
telling you anything you don't already know.
So I think the first few, like 1 through 5-ish, that could be easily done in like, just like a circle. That's a process. So that's not too hard to do. And then the auditing tiers, that can also be like a hierarchical model where you demonstrate the different levels of audits. That's what I was thinking. David, do you have something?
No, I'm just scanning it back and forth to
Okay.
see how it might all fit. I think I just realized those first 5 are a process, and I think you're
Yeah.
right. Some visual probably
Mhm.
breaks that home for you.
Mhm.
Mary Jo, would you want, excuse me, there's a fairly comprehensive 4 or 5 page section in the board's North Carolina Elections Crime Manual that talks about all of the various criminal penalties that can be imposed for campaign finance violations. I mean, it's fairly simple, but it's like 3 or 4 pages, and so I just put it out there whether is there a sense of the committee that putting that in is value or not.
So I think that would be, I mean, like I'm interested in it, but I'm not sure we want to reinforce the idea that politicians might be criminals. Um,
Surely not.
so maybe not remind people that there's a criminal element here. I think it would be better to highlight the positive and say, if we had data saying that, so many, X percentage of politicians file their reports on time. We only find errors this percentage of time. We only go to the tier 4 audit this percentage of the time. I think that would be really helpful because it would reinforce the fact that our campaign finance system is well run and complied with really well by candidates. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I agree that we want to be positive.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I think it kind of goes to the complexity of the system. And as, for those of us who have been candidates, while there's a little apprehension in the whole campaign finance realm, because, you send that report in or you're taking contributions in, whether it's the treasurer or the chair of the campaign committee or the candidate. I mean, there's there are a lot of felonies listed here that now, how many people actually get charged and convicted of campaign finance violations? Probably a minuscule, if any, but I don't know. I mean, it's just a component of the overall campaign finance responsibility and administration is that you got to do it right. And if you don't, and you intentionally do it wrong, there's serious consequences. So
Absolutely.
Well, and if I could say, I agree with that. Having been a candidate 7 times, I think it would be very easy for people to be tempted when they get checks made out in their name to take them. And, I don't think a little bit of a warning about how carefully this is looked at and what the consequences could be would hurt.
Okay.
I think that'd make everybody feel more comfortable about the people they're giving money to, or the fact that they do give them contributions. That's just my thought.
Yeah. Bob, can you send that to me and I'll work on getting it in there somehow, getting some of it in there at least.
Yeah, I will. I've got to remember where I found it. But I think I Googled it, but it's the North Carolina Elections Crimes Elements Manual, and the state board puts it out. So it may be on the state board. I don't know whether Dimney or Rachel. But I'll look and see if I can track down where I got it though.
Okay. I appreciate it.
And Mary Jo, real quick, just when you were putting this together, putting the different parts of it together, did your conception of what we were trying to put together change at all? Or do you think it was kind of the same as what we started out with?
I think it's pretty much the same. Well, let me back up. So last fall, I thought we were going to do more like a policy recommendation. Like, this is what we think should be changed in campaign finance. But commissions kind of tend to work this way. And, the idea that educating the public is really important is probably a better option.
Yeah.
Quite honestly, I think North Carolina's campaign finance system works really, really well. And in fact, most states work pretty well. People just don't understand how it works. So anything we can do to educate the public on how it works well and how candidates comply with it. And, yes, it is complex, but candidates jump through the hoops because they don't want to be convicted of a felony, so.
Yeah, that was, part of that's just projecting, just trying to figure out, because writing, and I probably had different, part of it was, putting together some of the parts that, that I worked on, and then reviewing it, I kind of view it a little bit differently, just in that, just trying to figure out that optimal audience and what we're trying to accomplish. Yeah.
What do you mean by you view it differently?
I guess just how it all fits together, and I guess how it would be how it will be presented a little bit. So again, I think, like you said, I think some of it was kind of making that transition from policy to public education.
Yeah. Okay.
But I do think if you were going to advocate for campaign finance reform or some discrete aspect of campaign finance reform, you got to understand the system. If you don't know about, these various third-party committees and what their limitations are, how do you advocate or
Yeah.
support?
I think education is much more achievable than policy. I
Yeah.
think policy to a certain degree is a dead end, at least at this first part of any of the work that we do as a group, as our commission.
I would agree. And, when I talk to students and the public about campaign finance, their big concern is there's money in politics. There shouldn't be money in politics. Oh, we should just get all money out of politics. And I'm like, that's just unrealistic. And when you start talking to them about, well, okay, who's going to pay for the campaign signs? They're like, I don't know. Somebody's going to pay for it. I mean,
Right.
So educating a little bit about how it works is super important. I mean, students always want to go with, my whole class wanted to get rid of money in politics. It took me all semester to hammer in that that's not going to happen. There's always going to be money in politics. There always has been. It's just not going to go away. So creating a system where it's regulated and managed and we can see it, it tends to work better. And finally they were like, okay, fine,
See, I think what you just said is really important to put in the lead in about, here's what you want out of a campaign finance system. You want accountability, you want transparency, just sort of the basic good government aspects of it. Whether the limit's 5,000 a person or 50,000 a person, you need these good government policies in place and the ability to govern them and manage them. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so back to the draft. Section 3 is the compliance and reporting, the kind of the processes. Do we have the resources to do all this? And that's the part that Bob and Dimney you're going to be working on. Is that right?
Right.
Okay.
Yes. We've met with Lindsay and Dimney and Patrick Brady and our working on that. We'll have it in a week or two, right? We think, Dimney?
Yes, we'll have it once it goes through all of us, probably in the next 2 weeks. I don't know what the day of the next committee meeting is for this committee, but it'll be done before that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when are our interim reports due, Jennifer? What did we sort of arbitrarily, wasn't it like the 15th or something?
Well, June 30.
Yeah. Okay.
June 30, the draft, and then, any tweaks before July 15th is when each committee will present to the whole commission. And so, the 2 or 3 main points that you want to make, you should be ready to make on July 15th.
We have a meeting next week though to present like a little draft. So if Jimmy or Bob, if you could just give me a couple of bullet points or something that I can present, that would be great.
Okay.
Yeah,
I can do
I
that.
appreciate
All right,
that.
I've got to get on this other call. So
Okay.
I'll leave it with all the talent here. Thanks, everybody, as
Okay.
always.
Bye,
Good
Bob.
to see you. And so the rest of this report or draft, I'll get those couple bullet points, and then the rest of it is just some background and resources, stuff that we had written about, just really about some of the definitions and just background information. When they create the total report, sometimes it's nice to have a glossary of some sort in a report just to inform everybody. So this is just extra material. If you see anything in there that you really want to be included in the 3 main pages, please do let me know. But for now, this is just kind of extra stuff. And I'll put some narrative around the 3 bullet points and then send it out to you all. But any other comments on the bottom part? I love definitions. I think it's really helpful to have like a real clear definition of this is what it is, you know. Jennifer, you got comments?
So I'm just wondering, and thinking about the main things that you want to bring up July 15th and then next week, are those 3 points at the top, the responsibilities, the sources, and the ability to do compliance, are those your 3 points?
Yes, those are the main themes that we came up with a couple of months ago about campaign finance. So that we would explain to, in a public education kind of viewpoint, explain from, where candidates are getting their money from, what they have to do, the sources of it, the rules and regulations, and what the state board does, just to kind of educate the public. Yeah. Do you have other ones?
Well, no, is there any like conclusion or finding for ways to improve on the way things are done now? Or is it basically you think that the state's doing what it should and the main thing is telling people what they're doing?
So we had moved away from any kind of policy suggestion and went to, like, we really think the state needs to educate the population on campaign finance so that people have more confidence in the system. They'll, if more confidence, they're going to give more money to candidates. They're going to be more likely to vote. They're not going to see the campaign system as completely corrupt.
I got it. So there's no recommendation for anything that could be tweaked. The only thing I saw was at the end, maybe more funding or more resources so that officials can, do audits and follow up. Is that really?
Well, and I think that's going to be in the bullet point number. The third one is that we really do need more funding for people in the state office to do all the reporting and the auditing and so forth. And I mean, I think that excuse me, that'll come out some in the narrative that I write, that you're having to audit all these reports. There's a very, very limited resources on those audits. And having more auditors could really increase confidence of voters.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's great. If that's, what the committee decided that things are working great and it's really about letting people know how they're working, that's, because you're absolutely right. I mean, I know I've talked to people about, how you can look up people's finance reports and see who donated to them. They're like, really? You can do that?
It's public record.
Yeah, they just don't know all the information that they can access and how it is transparent. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I was going to add, when we met with Lindsay, she kind of shared the specific details of the new software, like their dream software, if they could update it exactly as they wanted. So I don't know if we want to kind of put that into, or if that goes too much into like specific solutions, but.
No, I think that would be great because we need the public and the legislature to know this is what they need to do all this. So if you can put some stuff in there, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, and that's also part of the funding because it costs to upgrade software.
Right. A lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anybody else have comments on this? Okay, so our future meetings, Rachel, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we have any more meetings scheduled except for June 5th.
Yeah, so we have June 5th. That's it. Do we want to
Okay.
reschedule since it's just a week from now?
I think that would be a good idea if we could schedule it maybe for, gotta get my calendar out. Maybe the 19th. What do y'all think? June 19th?
That's a holiday, Juneteenth.
Oh, it is, yes.
And I'll be
Um,
gone. I'll be on vacation, but I will be for half of June, so.
I mean, and I'm pretty open. Classes are over, so I'm free.
Lucky you. The
Yeah.
other thing is,
Yeah.
folks need to reserve July 15th for the big, the big commission meeting, and let Catawba know, because they've got rooms held if you need an overnight room. Actually, let Rachel know. She's the one collecting the names.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I'm not completely positive that I will be there on the 15th, unfortunately, but my schedule is still up in the air for July.
Well, someone from the
anyways,
committee, someone from the
yeah.
committee will need to do the presentation if you can.
Yeah, we'll work that out. So, but the next meeting for us, the 12th, 11th, 12th, or maybe the 18th. How about the 18th? Anybody not available on the 18th at 2:00?
Me, but I'm
Okay.
going gone for 2 weeks in the middle of June, so
Okay.
don't base it on me.
Well, I'm hoping to get kind of revisions to this draft done next week, in anticipation of the June 4th meeting. So, maybe I'll send them to you, Susan, if you have any comments, I'd appreciate it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Will do.
So can we say the 18th?
And Mary Jo,
Yes.
my schedule is a bit lighter since the semester's over. If you could use another set of eyes editing or whatever, send me a document. I'm happy to look at it with you.
Okay. Thanks, David. I appreciate it. Yeah. All right, great. So on the 18th at 2, and then we're going to cancel the one on the 5th. Sounds like a plan. Okay. Anybody else have anything that you think we're just completely missing, that you've always wanted to know about campaign finance, or you've talked to people and you say, oh, I'm on this commission, and they say, oh, I really wanted to know about campaign finance, this thing that we're just completely oblivious about? Anything?
Well, as someone who hasn't come to committee meetings, I'm just nosing in. A lot of people don't know who is responsible for the ability of PACs to pay, and like who, and Citizens United, I mean, who is the right person to talk to if you're concerned about it, like the state, what a state authority. I think you have that in there, state versus federal authority, that kind of thing.
So like who to contact kind of more, or who
Absolutely.
is running it?
Yeah, if you don't like the way that PACs are treated, is that you go to your state legislator or do you go to your congressperson?
Okay.
Not that people are thinking about this every day. But I like the public education about what information the state does collect and what is available publicly. I think that's going to be really helpful.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. Anything else? Pressing issues on campaign finance? Nothing, huh? Okay. The only thing I always hear about is public financing, which is, just so difficult to do. Any interest in putting anything in there about public financing?
Well, we
I mean,
did
it's-
we
yeah.
did it in North Carolina for judges for a while.
Yeah.
So people might be interested in that. What happened to that? Why did it go away, kind of thing.
That's such a relatively small context. I was wondering if it's worth the space.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking.
Yeah, I think there's actually, we have to cut down on stuff more than we have to add it in.
Yeah. Okay. All right, that's all I've got.
But
That's
maybe
your-
it would be worth
Yeah.
a kind of I don't know if there's necessarily like an FAQ format or something along those lines, just, or a little thought bubble might be worth, pointing out where that money comes from, or having some mention of public finance, but
Okay.
I don't know if we have a lot of room for much.
So Mary Jo, Jennifer, I was just having the same thought, but it's making me wonder, would we want a fact for all of the committee, like a set of these things that people commonly ask about and direct them to resources or refer them to one of the documents, just, but not just for this group, for all the groups.
No,
Well,
I think that, yeah, sorry, go ahead, Jennifer.
Every committee has at the end, if you look at the template for the report, there's a list of resources. And, whatever you use to come to your conclusions, what you looked at with links. And that, I think that would be, if you have time, that would be great, because I do, you do hear a lot about public financing. The same people who are concerned about PAC money and that kind of thing do wonder, who's using public financing? Does it work? Has it worked? Where did it go? Who would, put that in place? So if there are resources under like an FAQ at the end, that kind of addendum at the end, Dimney and whoever else is running, if you have time, that would be great.
Sounds good. Yeah. I think that's a great idea. Because people are, the report should inspire more questions than anything. So. Okay, great. Well, I will get working on this. Hopefully, I'll get it out by the 4th-ish. And then we will meet back on what did we say, the 18th? Yeah, the 18th at 2:00. All right.
Mary Jo, it looks,
Yes.
what you've done is really good, and
Oh, thanks. Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
thank you.
Thank you for all the work you put in it.
Yeah, thanks,
Wow.
Mary
It
Jo.
was good.
No problem.
Thank you.
All right, we'll see y'all in a couple weeks. Have a good June.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, see ya.